Yo, what up everybody? It's your boy the Kryptonian saying here, bringing you another Naruto discussion. Today, I'm going to be bringing you guys another installment of my Wasted series. For those of you who are new to the channel, what this is I look at different characters and aspects of the Naruto universe, and I look at their potential and I explain to you why I, as a fan, feel as if series creator Masashi Kishimoto absolutely wasted their potential. So with that being said, obviously the topic of this discussion is going to be Shino Aburame, and one other small tidbit to take into consideration is the fact that I, as a fan, was a manga only viewer or reader for a very long time, and that means that I've not seen all the filler in Naruto or in Naruto Shippuden. So if Shino got some really awesome scenes in the filler, I didn't see it, and for the most part I don't even consider that when making these videos. Now, jumping right into the discussion, I want you guys to go back to part 1 of Naruto. I feel as if during this time, during the first 27 volumes of the Naruto manga, we got the most glimpses of Shino's potential, and as a fan you really felt as if this guy, after the time skip, was going to have some really crazy jutsu. If you go back to Shino's fight with Zaku during the preliminary exams, one of the things you saw in that fight was that Shino's bugs are able to move in silent in a way that you can't really track because they're so small, and then they sniff out chakra, which makes him a really dangerous character, because even if you're suppressing your chakra, they will find you, and then when they find you, they will eat away at your chakra. And the way that Shino was just fighting in such a methodical way, setting up the move before the move before the move, it was something that we see in Shikamaru's fight, and I feel as if a lot of people do see that with Shikamaru, and yet when it comes to Shino, Shino does not get enough credit. This dude is a brilliant strategist in battle, and this fight was one of the best ways to see this, as was his fight with Kankuro, which I'll get to in a moment. But the other reason why I really like this fight is when Shino had those bugs get inside of that weapons tool that Zaku was using. That was some of the most brutal shit that you saw in part 1 of Naruto, and what I really loved about that is Shino was able to see this guy's jutsu, come up with a counter for it, and then execute it in a way that was completely flawless. And it was something that really just tied into the theme of part 1 of Naruto, which is the fact that a ninja must see past deception, and that the first move that someone makes is really the move that sets up the move that finishes off the fight. And so that's one of the things I absolutely loved about Shino's fight at that point. And then when we find out that he's going to be fighting one of these terrible sand siblings, the reason why I say terrible is at the time when those chapters was coming out, that was one of the things you looked at, you're like, oh shit, Gar is just killing dudes without any type of hesitation. Tamari, she had a cute design back then, but at the same time you were looking at her and she just came off like a smug bitch, in my opinion. And when it comes to Kankuro, you just looked at him, you didn't know what was going on. This guy had like the little lines on his face, and you know that he had something on his back. I mean, it was just a few small things where you were looking at Kankuro. And so when we finally find out that Shino is going to be fighting this guy during the finals of the Chunin exam, I was absolutely hyped, as were a lot of people during that time period. And the reason being is that Shino displayed a lot of promise in his preliminary fight, and the fact that this dude had months to plan for Kankuro. Granted, he didn't know the specifics of his jutsu, but at the same time, if you give someone as smart as Shino, as smart as Shikamaru, time to plot and prepare for an opponent, I guarantee you they're going to find a way to win the battle. And so when the Sand siblings are going through their fuckery at the time, where all of a sudden Kankuro drops out of the exam, and part of the reason is that he doesn't want to display his puppet master jutsu to the Hidden Leaf Village, because they're getting ready to go through their joint invasion with the Sound Village in Orochimaru. And so when you saw that, you had Shino, who went from okay whatever to all of a sudden he's paying attention to the Sand siblings movements, and Shino was one of the first people to catch on to the fact that there's something fishy going on. And that's something I've always respected about Shino as a character, because during that time there were people who were looking at the Orochimaru connection because they knew Orochimaru was in there, but at the same time I don't think anybody in the Hidden Leaf Village, and I might be wrong, but I don't think anybody in the Hidden Leaf Village had fully connected the fact that the Sand and the Sound Village are working together together, and I really feel as if Shino was the one who was putting these pieces together in real time as they were happening. Now, the other thing that I found very interesting about Shino during the Chunin exams is when everyone's getting caught on the genjutsu, right? You had Shino who realized what was going on and he automatically releases it, and at the time that was a pretty damn big deal because you saw characters like Naruto who absolutely fell out. And yes, Naruto is someone who is really bad at genjutsu, but at the same time other characters were getting knocked out by this genjutsu, and Kakashi was praising Sakura at the time, saying it was a really smart idea to train her in genjutsu. She had a natural affinity for it, and then she goes to release the genjutsu on Shikamaru, and this dude had already done it and laid down like he was going to sleep. That was one of the most hilarious moments in part 1 of Naruto, by the way. But when you see Shino and he's fighting against Kankuro, that is another underrated fight. Now, obviously, when I did my 5 best fights in the first part of Naruto, I didn't have that fight in there, but at the same time, if I were to make a top 10 video, that fight would make my list because that is yet another fight that shows just the ability of Shino to adapt in real time during a battle. He knew he couldn't afford to get hit by Kankuro because of everything Kankuro had done to his puppets, and yet Shino was coming up with countermeasures as he was fighting him, and that is something that is really hard to do, and I don't think that that's something that a lot of fans truly understand. To be able to react in real time to what someone's doing, come up with a countermeasure, and then execute it as the fight is going on is really, really tough. It's not like playing a video game where you get the really bad boss and you kind of have an idea of what your skill set is and you're seeing what he's doing and you're just throwing stuff against the wall. Actually doing it in a fight where you have the mental fatigue, where you have the small things like the environment that you can't really take into consideration, little small things like that, the way Shino was able to adapt and use his environment to his advantage was really, really impressive. And then this gets even more impressive in my opinion when you compare the data book 1 stats for Shino and Kankuro at the time, because when you compare those stats, that makes it even more incredible what you saw between these two characters. Now, the other thing that I found data book 2 stats, but the other thing that I found very, very impressive when you look at Shino is that in the time skip, right? In the time skip, we didn't get much about his character. It was almost as if Kishimoto was aware of the fact that Shino was a character who had a lot of hype, and yet he wasn't really living up to it because he wasn't given the opportunity. Because you had Shino at some point saying, now I get the opportunity. I'm going to be on the Sasuke retrieval team, part 2. And that was really, really cool. The fact that you saw him going alongside Naruto and Team 7, as well as the other members of Team Team Kurenai, and I thought that that was pretty interesting, simply for the fact that you were getting this idea that, oh shit, there might be another Sound 4 type of showdown, and Shino will get a chance to show what he can do. And obviously that didn't happen. I mean, he got a little bit of shine where he kind of fought against Obito for a very brief moment, Obito, when he was pretending to be Toby, yet at the same time that wasn't anything to write home for. But what really made me aware that Kishimoto at this point was just cock teasing all of us was the pain arc, because I remember going into those chapters, I absolutely felt as if this was going to be the moment that we saw Konoha's next generation stand up to protect the village. And this even more so when we found out that Kakashi was dead. When Kakashi gave his life to protect Choji, and Choji's just wiping away all those tears, I was thinking, oh shit, we're finally gonna see it. The Konoha 11, they're gonna step up. We're gonna see them fighting the 6 paths of pain. And this is just me. I might be in the minority for this, but I remember when that shit was going on, I was thinking Naruto's probably gonna fight the big bad boss. He's probably gonna fight the Deva path, but I could totally see the rest of the Konoha 11 joining up with them. Obviously, Neji and Rock Lee and Tintin are outside the village, but everyone else, I was expecting them to kind of join up with Naruto, and we see this great team effort, them pushing back Konan and all the 6 paths of pain, and then you have Naruto take down the Deva path and then go face off against Nagato. That's what I personally was expecting at the time. So So yes, I am a little disappointed at that, but what really stood out was Kishimoto gave us the ultimate cock tease. What that was is you had Konan, who in herself was pretty skilled. Yes, she had prior intel about Jiraiya, but at the same time she held her own against one of the legendary Sannin, and she held her own against a Jiraiya who was not nerfed like he was in the first part of Naruto when Tsunade gave him that medicine that kind of weakened his reflexes. This was a Jiraiya who was essentially at full strength minus Sage Mode, and Konan was able to hold her own. The same Konan who had time to prep for Obito forced Obito to sacrifice one of his Sharingan eyes that he collected. So that lets you know that Konan isn't really a pushover, and we find out that not one, not two, but Shino and 3 members from his clan, including his father, were fighting Konan off panel, and I don't recall if the Naruto Shippuden anime included this fight. I remember they included the scene, but I don't remember if they included the fight in the anime. But I do recall how in the opening sequences for the Pain Invasion portion of the story, you did see the various members of the Konoha 11 fighting against Pain and fighting against Konan, and so I had a lot of hype when I saw the anime version of this, because I was thinking, okay, we might actually get some scenes extending this, and that didn't happen. The Naruto series has added extended filler to fights for a very long time. Like for instance, Sasuke versus Orochimaru, that whole taijutsu fight where Sasuke pile drives him, that was filler. Even the Naruto versus Sasuke part 1 fight, that had a lot of filler in it. When you go to the Kakashi versus Hidan and Kakuzu, there was a lot of filler. Those fights were a lot faster in the manga version of this. So I was expecting to see Shino and his clan fighting against Konan, and it didn't happen. And apparently there was this one moment in the Naruto Shippuden anime. I haven't seen it, so I can't really testify to it, but apparently there was this moment where Shino was being recruited by Root by Danzo, and the guy that ended up joining up with the Root organization from his clan ended up sacrificing himself so Shino wouldn't have to go through it. And I thought that was pretty cool. Obviously it's filler, but it does show that someone over at Studio Period did understand that Shino had a lot of potential. And so when you look at all that, and then you look at Shino as a character now, we haven't really seen much from adult Shino, and that again is something I feel is, while not unexpected given how his character's been handled, I thought for damn sure when we were getting the Ganin graduation test where the Ganin were fighting against Kakashi and a few of the other Jonin, I thought that we'd get an opportunity to actually see Shino in a real fight. And yet, what happened to Shino again? He gets taken off, not off panel this time, but off screen, because it's implied that Mitsuki used some variation of his Sage Mode power, because we saw the dude glowing, and next thing we know, Shino is just completely taken out. And I would have loved to see Mitsuki fight against Shino, and we see how Mitsuki is able to handle Shino's bugs. We see some of Shino's elemental releases. I thought that'd be pretty cool to actually see that, and absolutely didn't happen. And so that kind of just boils over for me a little bit. And the fact that when you had Shino, who was acting as a protector for the Ganins during the Hidden Mist arc, we didn't even get anything out of that. We didn't see Shino dusted up at any point. We saw the Mizukage fighting alongside Boruto and his classmates, while Shino would probably get a hard on at the thought of Boruto fighting, while he would be kind of proud over it. At the same time, Shino has been written to be a little bit stiff because he is a teacher at that point, and he's always been someone who's respected rules and authority. But at the same time, it'd be pretty cool to see Shino stepping up to protect his charges at that point, his charges being his students during the Hidden Mist arc. I thought that'd be pretty cool just to see Shino kind of mixed up a little bit, and it didn't happen. So I want to leave this off here to you guys. Do you personally agree with me, or do you disagree? Do you think that Shino's character was handled perfectly? But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, share.